Hello everyone, we've got Unseen 100, this is a Cicero. Take a look at this, it's quite big so it wouldn't fit on the screen, so I had to make it slightly smaller than usual. Okay, let's do this first sentence together. Quis Carthaginiensium plurris fuit Hannibale, consilio virtute rebus gestis, qui unus cum tot imperatoribus nostris per tot annos de imperio et de gloria decertavit. Quis, which of the Carthaginians fuit was worth more, plurris, it's got at the bottom in the translation, was worth more than, ablative of comparison, than Hannibal, in concilio, in wisdom, in virtute, in virtue, in rebus gestis, in accomplishments, a nice Ciceronian tricolon there. Qui unus, who, unus, as one man, decertavit, who as one man with, decertavit, struggled with tot, with so many of nostris imperatoribus, with so many of our generals, per tot annos, for so many years, anaphora there, de imperio, for power, imperio, et de gloria, and glory, for power and glory. It's a good novel there, by Graham Greene, I believe. Hunc sui cives equitate ejacerunt, nos etiam hostem literis nostris, et memoria videmus esse celebratum. His sui cives, remember that word, sui, the possessive pronoun, his own citizens, ejacerunt. Find your subject, find your verb, find your object, as always. Here's our subject, sui cives. His own citizens, ejacerunt, through, hunc, this man, civitate, out of the state. Nos etiam, we, even, we see, nos, here's the subject, videmus, we see, etiam, even as an enemy, that he esse celebratum, verb of saying or thinking, seen here, taking the form, I suppose, of the perception. We see that he, even as an enemy, esse celebratum, is celebrated in nostris literis, in our literature and in our memoria. So, nos videmus, we see that he, as an, even as etiam, as an hostem, as an enemy, esse celebratum, is celebrated in our literature and in our memory. Statement there. Quare imitemur nostros brutos camelos Scipiones, innumerabiles alios qui hanc rem publicam stabiliverunt, cos equidem in deorum immortalium coetu et numero repono. One of you sent me a translation, and actually in this translation you did end up getting the jussive subjunctives, but you only got them about halfway through the passage. This whole passage is filled with jussive subjunctives, quare, literally, with which matter, but let's just say so. So imitemur, jussive subjunctive, our first one, imitemur. So let us imitate our bruti, as in the plural of Brutus, our Camilli, our Scipios, innumerabiles, countless others, qui, who have preserved hanc rem publicam, this republic. So it's a jussive subjunctive. Quos, whom, equidem, indeed, repono, find your verb, I place, in the coetu et numero, in the company and the number of the immortal gods. The Romans were big fans of sort of looking at people. They had all of the busts of their ancestors. So if you were Brutus, you would have had, hence, the pressure, I suppose, on him following Caesar's dictatorship, but you had all of the busts, the statues of your grandfathers and your great-grandfathers in your house, and so they were a big fan of, once people had done wonderful things, to try and emulate them, particularly if they were in your families. So here I believe that it's actually saying the brute, as in the family of the Brutuses, as in the family of the Camilli. Don't forget also Camilla, this is why we have her name. In the etiological, I suppose, style of the Aeneid, we actually have Camilla, that wonderful female warrior, in case you're writing anything about women in an essay on the Aeneid. Next bit, amemus patriam, another jussive subjunctive. Amemus patriam, pareamus senatui, consulamus bonis, praesentes fructus neglegamus, posteritatis gloriae serviamus. Let us love our fatherland, amemus, jussive subjunctive. Let us love our fatherland. Pareamus senatui, let us obey the Senate. Consulamus bonis, let us consider the good. Neglegamus, another tricolon, I suppose, in that clause prior to the semicolon. Neglegamus, let us neglect present enjoyments. present pleasures maybe, let us neglegamus. Just of subjunctive, again, let us neglect present enjoyment. Serviamus, let us serve the future glory. Id esse optimum putemus quod erit rectissimum speremus quae volumus, sed quod accederit feramus. Cogitemus denique corpus virorum fortium magnorumque hominum esse mortale animi vero motus et virtutis gloriam sempiternam. Let us putemus, again adjussive subjunctive, let us think it to be best, verb of saying or thinking followed by accusative infinitive. Let us think it superlative, best, quod, which will be the rectissimum, another superlative, which will be the most upstanding. Let's consider that thing best, which is the most upstanding. It's a nice way of looking at it. Lots of balance. Remember that Ciceronian balance that he loves so much in his sentences and his clauses. Speremus, let us hope, quae volumus, what we want, sed, but, let us feramus, but let us accept what happens. I think it might be the Alcoholics Anonymous that have that prayer where they say, what is it? Let us let us accept what must be accepted and allow us the power to know the difference, or something like that. I think that's the Alcoholics Anonymous. Anyway, that doesn't matter now. Speremus, quae volumus. Let us hope for what we want, said, but let us bear what has happened. Let us accept what has happened. Indirect question, I suppose, there, with the accederet, perfect subjunctive there. Cogitemus, more adjussive subjunctives. Finally, denique cogitemus, finally let us consider the corpus, the body of virorum, so we've got a little consideration of mortality here. Let us consider the body of brave men, and of magnorum hominum, and of great people, esse. As soon as I see this cogitemus, I'm looking for an accusative infinitive, because it's a verb of saying or thinking. Let us finally think the body of brave men and of great people to be mortal. Let us remember that these bodies of these great people are mortal, vero, but that the motus animi, but that the motions of their mind and the glory of their virtue, sempiternam, eternal. That rather strange form, because it's actually only agreeing with here the gloriam rather than with the gloriam and the motus. So that may have been confusing for you. But this is still part of an accusative infinitive. But the motions of their mind and the glory of their virtue, eternal. This is the final sentence, and I've made it smaller because I couldn't break it up into smaller sentences. I had to make it into one big one in order to get the effect of the entire bit with the preliminary sentence on Hercules. Neque hanc opinionem si in illo sanctissimo Hercule consecratam videmus, quius corpore ambusto vitam eos et virtutem immortalitas ex cepise dicator, minus existemus eos qui hanc tantam rem publicam suis considis aut laboribus aut auxerent aut defenderent, aut servarent esse immortalem gloriam consecutos. And let us not, neque, let us not, and I'm going to repeat this, this final adjussive subjunctive in the second half of this paragraph, because I think it sort of sounds better, but I put it in brackets. See, if we videmus, if we see that, if we see, verb of saying or thinking, if we think that hanc opinionem, that this opinion, if we see this opinion, it doesn't even need to be, I suppose, accusative infinitive so much here, there is the accusative, consecratam, confirmed in illo sanctissimo Hercule, in that most revered Hercules, quius, of whom, after his corpore ambusto, after his body was burnt, remember that Hercules put on his lion skin that had been inside poisoned with this poison that would cause him to burn. This is how Hercules eventually got killed. Who, after his body was burnt, literally of whom his life and his virtue, dicator, is said to, are said rather, his life and his virtue are said ex cepise to have received immortalitas, immortality, of whom, ablative absolute, after his body was burnt, his life and his virtue, dicator, are said, dicator, here, subjunctive, because we actually have, if you remember, a subordinate clause within indirect speech, therefore oratio obliqua, are said, indirect statement again within the indirect statement, to have received immortality. Let us, and I've repeated it in brackets if you see there, let us not existemus, believe, minus, comparative, less, that eos, that they, and look at this, it's qui not quos, because if you remember the relative pronoun goes in the case that is required in its particular clause, Toby. So, let us believe, let us not rather believe less that they who either by their consilis, either by their wisdom or by their laboribus, by their efforts, have auxerent or obratio obliqua again. It's the subordinate clause within indirect speech, isn't it? Let us believe that they who have. So the who have whatevers are going to be in the subjunctive, so perfect subjunctive, that they who either by their intelligence or by their efforts have auxerent, have improved, outdefenderent, or defended, outsewarent, tricolon again, or have saved, tantam rem publicam, this great republic, that they have achieved consecutos, that they have achieved consecutos esse immortalem gloriam, immortal glory. Let us not believe less that those, qui is the subject in this particular clause, so it's nominative, Toby, so it's nominative, that they who have either by their efforts or their intelligence either improved or defended or saved the republic, let us not believe less that they have consecutos, as in let us not believe that any less that they, rather than Hercules, have achieved consecutos esse indirect statement, have achieved immortal glory. What a complicated final sentence, but a great one for you to all take a look at. Very well done, everyone, and I will see you all soon.